Welcome to No Longer Conformed. We're studying the book of Revelation. In this session, we'll be looking at Revelation chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. Let's read those verses. Revelation 11, verse 1. Then I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood saying, "Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there. But leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. These are two of the most exciting verses for Christians today. The temple in Jerusalem must be rebuilt. Well, why? Well, go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. When ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Understand what? Well, Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. For he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. Well, let's stop here and get a little bit of history at this point. Solomon's temple of 1 Kings was destroyed in 587 BC when King Nebuchadnezzar took Israel captive. In his book, Ezra records the rebuilding by Zerubbabel. It was attacked in 170 BC by Antiochus Epiphanes, and it was ruined. Herod's temple took 46 years to build, and it was destroyed in 70 AD. Jesus prophesied the destruction in Matthew 24:2. And Jesus said to them, "See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down." There is no temple standing in Jerusalem today. The Dome of the Rock, the Mosque of Omar, is on the Temple Mount. For 2,000 years, many Jews, Muslims, and Christians have been slaughtered in attempts to control this particular piece of real estate. But the temple will be rebuilt during the tribulation. When is the time of the Gentiles? Well, Jerusalem was under Gentile rule from 587 BC until 1948 AD. Ezekiel 36, verse 24. For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries and will bring you into your own land. And that occurred in 1948, when after World War II, many Jews just poured into Israel, and then Israel was supported as its own nation by the United Nations. Yet even today, Jewish rule is hindered because of the Muslim Dome of the Rock, Mosque of Omar. there were 2 temples in Israel's past, and there are 2 temples in the nation's future. One that's built during the peace of the first 3.5 years of the tribulation, that's referenced in that passage in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, and the other during the millennium, prophesied of in Ezekiel chapter 40, verses, well, in that chapter and forward. John enters the vision in Revelation chapter 11 and verse 1 in our passage. He's given a reed like a measuring rod. And this reed grew in the Jordan Valley. It was hollow and bamboo-like. It grew in many cases to be some 15 to 20 feet long. The reed was used by Ezekiel to measure the millennial temple. The one that he used was 9 feet long. It was 6 cubits. A cubit was 18 inches, 1.5 feet. Ezekiel chapter 40, verse 3 and verse 5, it says, "He took me there, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze. He had a line of flax and a measuring rod in his hand, and he stood in the gateway. Now there was a wall all around the outside of the temple. In the man's hand was a measuring rod 6 cubits long, each being a cubit and a handbreadth. And he measured the width of the wall structure, 1 rod, and the height 1 rod. Measuring the temple signified God's ownership of it. This marks the beginning of the Great Tribulation during the last 3.5 years. That 42 months of trampling that happens from the midpoint to the end of the tribulation. Rise and measure everything within the temple court, but not the outer court. See, the temple, which equals the holy place and the holy of holies, the bronze altar of sacrifice and the worshipers. Who are the worshipers? Well, believing Jews of the tribulation and the priests who served at the temple. God is giving assurance that he will take care of those who faithfully worship him in those days. But the outer courts, the outer court of the Gentiles was rejected. Why? It's God's rejection of all unbelieving Gentiles during the Great Tribulation. They will oppose God's covenant people and trample the city of Jerusalem. When? After the man of sin overthrows all Jewish worship at midweek, after 3.5 years, and sets up his own throne, the abomination of desolation. Chapter 11, verses 1 and 2, the first part of 2, are during the first part of the tribulation. And the second part of verse 2 occurs in that final 42 months. It is the visible, evil career of the Antichrist. It's recorded in chapter 13 and verse 5. And God protects the Jews in the wilderness at that time. Chapter 13, verse 5, he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. That's second 3.5 years. Chapter 12, verse 6 and verse 14, it says, "Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the presence of the serpent." So remember 2 important principles as we continue this book. First of all, God is fully aware of all that's going on. Nothing is escaping him. And second, God himself sets limits on the persecution. God is fully in control. Satan is allowed to do things. He's given authority, but there's limits to it, and it's God who's given him the authority, that limited authority. You have a great day.